Heidi Hill Campers, how you doing this morning? It is Saturday, July 18th, and we're up and Adam early this morning to talk about different things about resumes and your online presence, and how does this stack up right now during this time, during this pandemic, when people are looking for positions, open positions, so to speak. I know that sterile processing has a huge field. There are lots of places that are hiring. There are lots of places that are hiring right now. However, there are more people for the smaller amount of positions. And so today we're just going to continue our series with tools and tips to help you position yourself for positions, actually, for open positions, for employment, learning how to pivot during this season. You have a certification that is valuable, not just in a hospital, ways that you can use that for your own, for your benefit and for the income and revenue of you and your family. And so without further ado, we're just kind of going to get into some questions. Later, I'll go over some of the introductions of the individuals who are on with us today on Knowledge or Nonsense. If you have any questions, or if there are any barriers or roadblocks you've run into over the past 90 to 120 days with staying gainfully employed, please just post your comment in the chat box. We'll do our utmost to get to it and to address it. First things first. So we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? And there are a lot of open positions. What are some things you all look for when there is an open position? What are some things you look for, like immediately when you're looking toward a candidate, or you're looking even to find a candidate? Where are some places you look? I asked Karina first.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I usually go and look in Indeed, ZipRecruiter. We also have our own site where we get applicants and candidates who come in and visit us. So that's just another one. We look at our current employees, have great references, who know they work with other coworkers who know that they can get the job done and are familiar, especially in the travel world. There's always committed people that want to work. So those are my avenues for looking for candidates.
Okay. Anyone else?
I mean, one of the things that you... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Those are the main places that we search. We do also, and thank you so much. Those are some of the main places we search. We also do look toward the word of mouth referrals. We look to see even within the scope of what we've already done. But if you have people who are working for you who have the same type of experience, they'll be the best sources in many cases to find someone who has that same type of drive and commitment and quality of work.
All right. Brian, go ahead, sir.
And I was going to add, when we're looking for people, one of the things that we constantly look for is to make sure that, like you said, the history, word of mouth, and also I need to know what you did on your resume. You can't just give me a one-liner and expect for me to just come up with word of mouth. I need to see what you've done.
All right, so let's do that with resumes. I know there's been times that I looked at resumes and resumes look really good. I mean, they look amazing. They look amazing. It's a resume. I'm like, man, they've done so much in so little time. And then like often when they get into the facility or when they are, in the place of work, you find out that maybe they're just out of school and maybe they did some volunteer hours, which not knocking any volunteer hours, get your clinical out, get your hours, get your volunteer hours. But maybe they were really a transporter. And so they're not strong with certain cases like ortho cases. But on their resume, they've listed these things as their specialties. And then they get inside and their productivity, it can't meet the demands, or really they just don't know what they've said that they know on the resume. Brian, as a leader, as a manager, as somebody who has a team, when that happens, like, how do you handle that when that happens? I know you've gotten somebody whose resume and their work performance might not have been commensurate. Their intentions were good, but one of these cats was not like the other. Like, how do you address that?
I mean, in those particular situations, particularly, I just recently hired somebody, and that was the case. The resume was nice and tight, and everything was where it needed to be. But when you put the person in a place to actually do the things that's needed to be done, thank God for 90-day, grace periods and things beyond, because at this, and what I was saying, sterile processing, we're a big community, but we're a small community. I want to know your references, put your managers on there, because 90% of the time I'm going to know them. So I'm going to be able to find out the information. So I would just say, be honest. And in this field, we learned that it's great to have the experience. Yes, I would love to hire someone with the experience, but I love people that don't have it, because that way I can see what we need to do for this particular facility. Because each sterile processing department is completely different. So don't feel like you have to say so much about what you do to have the experience. We train. We want to train you. Things change. We're in a field that changes daily. So give yourself the opportunity to learn, because no one knows everything. I've been in this for a long time, and I learn daily. Trust me.
Okay, good. I just kind of want to reiterate a couple other things, because I heard some good points. I heard places where people look for employees, like they look for applications. And I also heard just be honest on the resume, like don't pad your resume, because that gets you in. But then if you can't do it and if you're in a 90-day period, it may, hey, you may be like, well, at least I'm in here and I'm going to get it. But it also may paint you as someone who kind of says one thing but does another, or maybe you were dishonest. And so just be aware of those things. Let's do this. Before I ask you what the best sterile processing managers look for in their support staff, whether that's the technician, a lead, supervisor, educator, coordinator, whatever the position is, before I ask what the best SPD managers look for, what do good managers look for, period, in people? Like when people are looking for someone to be on their team, what are some qualities that people look for, and why?
Well, for me, I look for commitment. Why? Because I know that they work, they know they love what they do, and they're always prepared. So commitment.
Okay. Anyone else?
And I'll piggyback off of what Karina said, sustainability. Don't leave gaps in the resume. If you leave gaps, it leaves us to wonder, what happened at this particular, time. We all know life events happen, things happen, changes happen, but just be honest about those particular things, because when the resume comes across the desk, you get so many, so you try to pick the ones that you know that's going to be
gonna work.
Yeah, that will do what you need to have done. So I would say, just be mindful of the gaps and the things that are in there.
All right. For me, I definitely I'm just gonna throw this in here. I look for the ability to kind of work with other people. If I'm looking at your resume and you have 6 months to a year, like you have 15 jobs, that's great. But I'm wondering what happened in that 6 months to a year. No one had an opportunity for you to get on their nerves, or vice versa. if you have several jobs, but they all are like 6 months to a year, sometimes, and I'm just, listen, this isn't a personal attack. We're just talking about things that, how does your resume and your online presence stack up? If there's a lot of things individuals have to look for, they begin to look for different ones, look for certain things. That lets me know that in 6 months to a year, I'll be right here with this position again, trying to refill the same position, especially if these are permanent positions. These are not 26-week assignments. These are like permanent positions, and you have a new one every 6 months to a year. Personally, I may miss out on a great thing because I'm not going to go further with their resume because I'm going to have to fill that position again in 6 months. I don't even need to close that requisition because in 6 months, I'll need someone else. And
That's
so,
when I see those type of resumes, I call them the shopper resumes. It's where candidates are always shopping for new positions, new locations, never satisfied. And since they know they have a certificate that can take them farther into other hospitals or facilities, they're shoppers.
yeah. Which, again, knowing your job market, October 2019, there's so many positions that may, just over the past 6 years, it just seemed like the demand uh, was always greater than the supply. And so now we've had a hard stop and a hard curve, and things are shifting a little bit. Now you're looking at the supply exceeding a demand. Not even that they don't want you to come in, but like if there have been no elective surgeries, trust me when I say there's not going to be a budget for additional staff. And so there may be some adjustments that have to be tweaked because of the shifting job market.
Right.
If you have money where you can sit up for like 2-3 years and be like, well, until they meet my demands, I'm not coming in, then, I get that. Go ahead and sit up on that cash. Good. And good job for you for being, having the foresight. But if you have 60 to 90 days before you're looking at, before you turn in on the cable and it's not there, or, I mean, I'm not saying cable's mandatory, but before it shifts your life, then maybe recognize that the job market has shifted, and so maybe you have to shift some of your approaches too. Miss Cherry said that Karen Cherry says she looks for integrity, customer service, team-oriented, flexibility, and understand that employment is a partnership, not just a paycheck. Hey, this is not on our, I just want to put this out here. When I interview people, I literally ask, what do you look for in a company? And sometimes there's such a great pause on that, but it is a partnership. So what do you look for in a company? Because if I know that I'm connecting you with somebody and that company is not what you're looking for, that's not fair to you or the company. Hey Lila, how you doing? We're gonna take a short break. When I come back, we're gonna continue like things that we look for. Those are things we look for as far as like on the resume. I would like for us to identify some of the things we look for which are on site. When people are working, what are some behaviors that we look for? And we'll take about a 30 to 40-second break. When we come back, we can answer some of those questions. Hi, yeah, my name is Sharon Combs at UCDI. This is Knowledge and Nonsense, where we just have nuts and bolts conversations. We're talking with some individuals who are actually helping us identify different ways that our resume can stand out, different ways that our social media presence actually does have an influence on employment. Whether we like that or not, it is something that still does impact, your selection. Like legally, somebody can't say, hey, I looked at your Facebook and you were passed out on the bar, so we didn't hire you. No one in HR is ever going to say that to you. But what they may say is not a good fit. We decided to go a different way. Their position has been filled, even though you still see openings somewhere. And so we're just talking about different things that will help out in the field, like getting employed in the field, maintaining employment. What makes you a peak performer? What makes you the pick of the litter? What makes you stick out? And so right now the question is, when people are working, what do you look for in workers? Not just the resume. People can fluff the resume, but we're working day to day. What are some of the things people look for, and what are some of the things that cause you to stand out on the job site?
For me, I think it's the willingness for you to say yes. So when people, I learned, someone told me in an orientation many years ago, I can't even remember what hospital, but they were like, say yes to everything. And I started using that as an opportunity when I went to that job. Okay, I'm gonna say yes. When they wanted somebody to go pick case cards, I was like, I'll do it. I'll learn. If they wanted someone to go and do rounds and do pickups or something, okay, I'm ready to learn, because I just knew that if I got exposed to more things and I was able to be that person that was always willing to do things, I was going to stick out a little bit more. And so I'm always looking for that willingness to say yes, for when those broad questions come out there. Because I don't need you always to say yes to, oh, I want overtime, or, oh, I'm ready to take a break. I need you to be able to say yes to a challenging task that you may not be willing, that maybe you're not equipped for yet, but you're willing to learn. So I'm always looking for those people that want to stand out and say yes immediately.
Excellent, excellent. Brian, what do you look for?
I would say some of the same qualities. Personally, like you said, it's funny because we just had this conversation yesterday in the workroom about people's perceptions of what they see. You have a person that goes around and does all of these particular things, and they feel like, well, that person knows everything, so they should get a position as a supervisor. But when you put that person in a position to be able to make decisions, they don't make the correct decisions, and those particular people that are their friends, they let them skate by. But then you can bring everybody else's things that they do to my attention, but you won't say something to the biggest people that do wrong or incorrectly. So I pay attention to that. Just being in the moment when you're in the workroom with your staff. Just pay attention, because people show you who they are, even when they don't want to, even when they're trying to hide it. They show you who they are.
Right.
Yes, they do. They do. I think one of the horror stories, was someone else going to say something? Because I was going to share a story. And I definitely think SPD Nation needs to hear this story. Okay, so I'm just going to share it. So one of the, not a horror story, but it was a sad story. And it dealt with somebody who, they knew they could do the work. You hear me? Error rate better than it. Like they really never, I don't remember. I'm sure they had an error because we're human and there's human error, but I don't remember one. And just the speed with which they could get things done, productivity outshined everyone's. However, the person's personality was so large and uncomfortable for everybody else that when it came time for like promotion, like things that it seemed like, why would I'm winning? My marks are higher than everyone else's marks, but their personality was such a rub. Hear me, SPD world. Their personality was such a rub that it created more work than they did physically.
Ooh.
Like people, just like they would just leave a body, like a trail of bodies in their wake everywhere they went, and they were unaware of it. They were oblivious to this fact. And in their mind, they were like, well, if it's a problem, they should have said something to me. And here's the thing, maybe in a perfect world, but we live in an imperfect world. And if people don't want to fool with you, that can undo all of the skill and professional ability you have, because management, leads, liaisons, all of these people have to clean up after you, because even though you're doing that, 26 other people don't want to be around you. And so they're going to end up letting you go. You're not going to get and you won't understand why, but I just wanted to share that. So people look for that too. Listen, if it's always everyone else and it's never you, I just want to encourage you, take a knee, take a bow, do some self-reflection, because that does impact whether people want to work, whether people want to work with you, and whether you're able to keep your position. If your personality is such a rub that people have to do damage control or firefighting when you leave, it doesn't matter how many trays you put together. It doesn't matter the fact that you may not have an error rate, because your upline can't do the job they're supposed to do because they have to clean up after you all the time. I just wanted to put that story out there. That's an actual true story. And the heartbreaking part about that story is this individual did not know. They did not know. They were like, what is the problem? What is the problem? And so, look at how you work with other people. Look at how you work with other people. What's something else you guys look for? Do you think gossip actually? Go ahead, Brian. You're about to say something.
I was gonna say, like there are different stages that we're looking for, but me, especially with supervisors, one of the things that I really look at when I'm trying to hire someone to be in a supervisory role is I need to see that you have some humility, which goes back to the story that you said. You can't walk into a situation and every time someone brings something to your attention, you become combative, or you feel like you always have to prove your point to show that this isn't something you've done, or that's not who I am. Well, wait a minute. I'm over here in the corner being your biggest cheerleader trying to tell you, hey, I need you to pull back a little bit. I need you to just say, okay. You don't always have to have the last word. You don't always have to try to defend yourself, because something. You walk into a new environment, you have 9 or 10 or 20 different personalities that you now have to get accustomed to. So you don't have to feel beat down. But
Right.
remember, there's growing pains. You're gonna get stuck a little bit. You're gonna get pushed. You're gonna get shoved. You're gonna get beat up. But you have to try to figure out what to do, because each person is different. You can't handle them all the same. You gotta you gotta be vulnerable in order to find out what it is your staff needs.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Anybody else?
I was gonna say I get calls for people that want me to give them a referral, and I'm very honest in my referrals. So those HR recruiters that are on right now, when I get those phone calls, I take it legitimately, because I don't give everyone a referral. It's because I worked with you one time around at some facility. I take that personally. Like, I feel like if I'm putting my name on it, then it's gotta stand true. But I
Yeah.
think that people need to understand that I love when recruiters ask questions, or they ask for that referral, and they ask a little bit more about the personal intent behind, like, the character, because I feel like those are good questions. And if you would want to work with that person again. Because someone could be a great technician, but do I want to work with them again? I don't know. I don't know if I would want to be at the lineup for their facility to work at XYZ hospital with them. But there's some people I would love to. In a minute, I would go running back to wherever they were, because that's how great of a worker they are. So I think that those are some really good questions, and people need to self-reflect, as Sharon was mentioning in her story. You kind of need to have those conversations with yourself sometimes and think about how you are as an employee. Sometimes just getting the work done is not always the best. Um, the only thing that you should be able to bring to the table. You should also be able to bring those
Right.
other qualities that people look forward to working with, and they want to work with you, and they can't wait to see you again in another facility.
Yes. Okay. Show of hands. How many people have someone that they don't want to work with again? Right. So that's a real thing. I just want to just show of hands. Okay, now show of hands. How many people have someone they do want to work with again? So we're just putting that out there to let you know that people actually there are things that people make choices like this, and in this job market, some of you have nothing to worry about. Your job is there, it's secure. Some of you, your contracts were canceled, you were furloughed. There are cases that are not supportive of like there are places whose volume has gone down to the point that it's not supportive of the staff that they actually have. So, are there any interview questions and responses that can verify someone's knowledge? Are there questions that people like? Are there questions that we ask, or are there questions that a recruiter or a manager would ask to kind of verify what you put on that resume?
I would say there is. I mean, in my particular area, we do ask questions based on things that you do. For instance, the biological. We put the actual term, the biological, and we ask questions about what would you do and how. It's like a three-part question. We do the behavior interviews, so we take actual things that we do and we ask those questions. We take situations where um, if a piece of equipment was dropped on the floor and it was damaged, how would you handle that particular situation? What would you do, and who would you notify? So you can put certain questions in there, but it's a fine line
Okay,
of
that's good.
put in
I,
there.
I think those are great questions, but I think that also people need to know how to get past that initial recruiter, because they may not ask those questions about the technical part of the field because they may not have the knowledge to get you there. And so sometimes I find that people get hung up, they can't even get past that first barrier. You know, they may have a nice resume, and but they can't get to the next level of past the recruiter that's looking to fill the spot to get it to the manager. So how do we get to that point? Because I know how people get through it. They usually go through me. You know, hey, I saw XYZ is hiring. Can you put me through? And I'm gonna put like, okay, put the app in, and I'll let the hiring manager know. But if people don't have that connection, how do we get past that initial, call, or that cold call? You saw your resume, you see you're interested. How do you get those skills from those conversations?
Okay, that's a great question. That's a great question. Thank you for putting that question out there. And I'll let Regina and Karina weigh in. As a matter of fact, let's do that right now. I just want to thank Karina Gomez for being with us. She is an HR coordinator. Regina Barnes, who's an HR recruiter. Brian, everyone knows Brian, Isham president. Just a wealth of information though to the field on the whole, not just with Isham. Yay for Isham, and you're running it. Good job, not running it, but you're doing a great job and a great job with the virtual conference, welcoming people. I love your video, by the way.
Thank you.
But also just a resource in Florida, just a resource of knowledge nationwide, and really committed to the betterment of our field. I'll just sum it up there. Committed to the betterment of our field, people wise and process wise. And Lila Price, dynamic educator. So yeah, what are some ways, Karina and Regina, that you know, how do people get through that initial interview?
Well, for me, I have to look at the experience. I do have to look at the knowledge of the department, how well they know the department.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of new employees that come to the field, students, interns, they get stuck with only one department, which is decon. So waiting to find out if that's all they did, or if they were not involved in other departments. That's also a great one. Finding out a checklist of the instruments that they're familiar with and how long they've been working with those instruments and when was the last time they were involved in working in the case. And those are mainly the things that I look in my checklist.
Okay, Regina, how about you?
We use a lot of the same tools, but also as we go in, we get more in depth in their questions and answers. Because one thing we've noticed in a lot of places, and I mean, not just sterile instrument processing, but everywhere, is people can always talk a good game. But you've got to get past that and say, okay, so you've done this because it looked good on paper. Tell me what was your biggest challenge. Tell me what you've encountered. Again, Brian, I believe you said if something breaks, how do you fix it? We have to probe a little bit deeper than the initial sometime just to get the basics of what's really happening with this person. We want to be one that's not as Karen Cherry often puts it in many different words. We have to be one that's about not don't just be about it, but do it. Can you do more than just talk the talk?
All right. I want to just share this too. Here's a freebie. I love helping people with this. When I interview, like if it's a 15-minute interview, I don't know. That's a guess in the wind. Some people, they can tell in 15 minutes. And I think that there's some people I can tell within 15 minutes, but when I interview, I'm going to go past 15 minutes. Because typically about that 30-minute mark, a question that you asked earlier, it may come up in a different format in the conversation, and you start getting a little response. Just like when you move in with somebody, a little bit later you begin to see, oh, hey, but it's harder for people to keep the first date face on 35 to 45 minutes into an interview question. You begin to hear when they say, well, they don't know what they talk about, and they keep saying those things, and they're talking about their management or their team. You begin to hear really what fit looks like, and when they have those comments, if you have a team that they gel well together and they have an open position, then this person isn't going to be a great fit. They're not coming in team at all. They're coming in themselves. And so those are things that in your initial interview, there are flags. Depending on how you talk about your past facilities, are you talking about process problems? Or are you talking about people you can't stand? And the type of language you use with that. Sometimes you get so comfortable with your recruiter or with the interview process, you say way too much, and so that can disqualify you also. So those are some things. Which questions do you use and responses do you expect to verify fit? Well, like they were saying, tell me about a time that I say things like, tell me about a time you worked for somebody who didn't know half of what you knew and kept throwing everybody under the bus. I asked that question in an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the time you worked with somebody who kept throwing everybody under the bus and they didn't even know what you felt like they should know. You work for somebody who doesn't even know sterile processing, but that's somebody that you have to take instruction and direction from. Tell me about their time. Because in sterile processing, we know that there are a lot of times people come into leadership, but they haven't worked in sterile processing. They may have worked in the OR. And so that's it's a real likelihood that you're going to have this. So I want to know how you handled it. Did you help them? Did you sit back and be like, well, they think they know everything, I'm gonna let it, because the patient, so that lets me know. That's how I look for fit too. Are there any specific questions you all use to kind of determine, any go-tos to determine fit?
One of the questions I asked is, when was the last time you had a disagreement with your leader or your manager, and how did you handle it?
Okay, cool.
That tells you a lot about their professionalism and how they're able to handle their emotional intelligence in handling a problem.
Okay, I'm trying to ask this question and keep it legally. How often are you distracted by confidence over knowledge? I think the longer you're in the game, for me, the longer I work in sterile processing, confidence over knowledge becomes less and less of a factor. Because there can be somebody who looks like they never say a word, and they are a knowledge, they are a wealth of knowledge. And then there can be somebody who answers something first every time and they don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to control the conversation. So, Lila, have you ever been distracted by confidence over knowledge?
I'm a little bit more leery when I see too much confidence coming in because I know I don't know everything, and I know that about myself. But I know I'm a researcher. I'm a fact checker. I'm going to go, and if I don't know something, I'm gonna get the answer for whomever's asking me. I guess that's just that educator in me. But the people who are very confident, I tend to be a little leery of what they are because I'm one of those people who will just show and prove. You know what I'm saying? It's great that you can tell me you can come in here and give me 200 trades in 8 hours. Great. But I need this, but I'm gonna see it and I'm checking them for error rates at that point in time because I know that I'm quality versus quantity. So I want you to show me the quality of your work as opposed to giving me a lot of voice about what you can do, what you're going to do, and how great you were at XYZ place, whatever. I want to see. So, and I don't put you to the test. And you may not want to go against my test, but that confidence would make me a little bit more leery. So now I'm really paying attention to you as opposed to you falling back in the background. But I think you got it. Now I'm really focused on you. So that may not work to your benefit with someone like me.
All right.
That's a double-edged sword. I said that that's a double-edged sword is because even in my current position, when I went for the interview, and I did the interview with my chief at that particular time, you know, I just talked about the job and the experiences and the things that I've done. I didn't feel like I did or said anything that made me appear to be overconfident, but he really didn't want to hire me. And had it not been for the assistant chief at that particular point, get the job, I never would have got it. So when I walk into an interview now, I have to pull back. I can't really say what I know and who I am and what I do because of that very same reason, because some people feel like you're being overconfident. I'm just telling you my life experiences of what I've done in this field. So it is a double-edged sword, and it's sad, but that's the reality of what we do. You have to just give a basic answer and be done with it.
So what I hear you saying is it doesn't even really, like, it may not matter what position you're interviewing for. Because I think confidence, and this is my thought, guys, everyone listening right now, this is just a personal thought. I would think confidence would be more useful for a higher level role because you have to make more decisions and you're not involving everybody in each decision you make because they expect you to be able to make it. But what I hear you saying is sometimes they come across as being obnoxious or arrogant. And take it like that. I see a few nods there. Okay, so that's okay.
But everybody has an opinion, and the way you perceive it is different from the other person. I would have never thought in the interview process, when I did the interview, when I walked away from it, I felt that it went well. I thought I answered all of the questions. And later on, after I got the job, I had that conversation with my chief. We sat down and we talked about the situation. And he told me, he said, I'm going to be honest with you. At the very beginning, I did not want to hire you because I felt like, I didn't believe you did all the things that you kind of resume. I didn't believe you did all the things that you actually said. But after being here and seeing you do X, Y, and Z, I think we made the best decision. But it was just the whole point of his thought at the beginning was, I don't want to hire him. And when we talked about it later on, he told me, he said, I felt like if we hired you, when you came into the position and you were going to make me look, that wasn't my plight, nor was that what I was trying to do. But again, people are going to be people. So you have to, when you walk into a interview for any job, you have to be mindful of that. I mean, even in this role that I'm in, I've applied for different positions, and I've moved up from a supervisor to a manager, from a manager to the assistant chief, and even in those roles, I mean, I still get met with that, and a lot of separatism of different things is based on a person's thought process or how they view it. Even though I feel confident about the job and I've shown myself in so many different factors of it, it really determines how that it comes down to the way that person perceives it.
Wow. So okay, let me flip this right quick. And I've experienced that too, Brian. But just because of the nods, before I flip it, I want to go back to some of the nods. I saw 3 nods. We need some help because this is where personality comes into play. And just the same way someone who is being interviewed can misread an interview and misread the interviewer sometimes can misread. Now, it only really impacts the person being interviewed.
Right.
But I saw some nods there. So what are some, hey, the fine lines. And we want no names of any companies, nothing like that. No names of people or companies. We want to keep it, that's a disclaimer right now. But what are some things, like y'all all nodded on the arrogance? Like, yeah, I've been there. What are some things that make people come off as arrogant? Even on the phone, let's just be real. This is COVID time. You're not going to have too many face-to-faces initially. So even over the phone or over Zoom, let's help people. Let's give them something to work with.
I would say when you go into an interview, try not to use the word I so much. That
I.
that was a killer for me, and I had to learn to not say I and make it more of a team aspect. Simply because when you work in sterile processing or any job you won't go into, there is no I. It's always an us, a we, a them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make it about the team because when you walk into situations and you're constantly I, well, I isn't going to make the job function. It's not going to make the hospital succeed. It's not going to make sterile processing succeed. So I would say be mindful of the word I.
I totally agree with you. Eyes are there was a communication that my manager was sending out just the other day, and I went in and changed all the I's to we's, and then I sent it back to her because it was just like I was like, we're a team, and you say it often, but I think and sometimes we just don't realize it. So I was just like, I changed all the I's to we's because we collectively did this work, so we all should take the credit for it. And it was an oversight by her part, but I think that sometimes because we all are human, we sometimes know that we're doing something and we may need other people to support us, but we forget about it. So that's definitely a big takeaway for me. And if I hear people say I a lot, I'm immediately going, none of us made it here by ourselves. We all collectively got into our positions because someone helped us and showed us how to do this work, or showed us how to get advancement into our career. So show that we effort and that we spirit more often in everything we do. And I catch myself doing it. And I'm immediately one of those people that will catch myself quick, like, oh, we did this. And, my partner and I, we were talking about this, and this is what we decided as a group. Because I just don't ever want anybody to think that I'm the take charge person. And sometimes I am, but I don't want people ever to perceive that from me outside of that in the larger group, you know. So I totally agree with you that I always makes me feel like I'm team.
All right, all right. Anyone else? What are some ways that we can help people not come across as arrogant? Definitely in this time.
I think overselling themselves on their position. Show the proof of what you've done. Show me, have proof of what you've done, your work. Your references speak alone. Who you are. So yes, prove to me. If I'm going to call your previous employer, I want to hear the same thing you're telling me about that, of what you accomplished in that department or in that facility. So that's what I look for.
Regina, how about you?
It's more of a, it's sad to say it, but so many people, when they come in looking for a job, have been, in many cases, shall I say, beat down by whatever. That I've actually seen the opposite side a lot of times. That people come in and they're just as humble and just as, almost down, and that's wonderful. But you know, they have to still be a subject matter expert. They have to know what they're talking about. So I do want to hear confidence, but not boasting. I want to hear know something about the subject. I don't want them to seem like they're just stumbling everywhere. But at the same time, I want to not get to the point, as you say, of them being braggadocious or boisterous. There's a difference. As a team, we did this, we accomplished this. And then I say, well, what about your part? What was your part in that team? Well, I had to do this. So I'm bringing it around because sometimes it may have been done by a team, but you stood in the sidelines and watched. So I want to hear both parts of that, and not just not just the as a team, but at the same time, you're right. I don't want you to everything to be I, because then I say, wait a minute, are you just trying to put yourself up in a good light or what? I want you to not just talk about it. I want it to be in such a way that makes me understand. And then when I call your references, I'll be able to know more about it from them as well.
Yes. When I used to speak with references, so I really can't. One of the things, listen, your energy is there. You can tell because there are a lot of times, even with references, like you can have a personal reference, but you can do a job verification. A job verification is they worked here from this month to this month. This was their job title and nothing more. if someone really enjoyed working with you, like if someone gives me a call and say, hey, tell me about Lila, I'll be like, oh yeah, Lila. Like immediately, I know who you're talking about. My whole energy, everything is like, oh, Lila, yeah, she's this. I'm not reading the
Exactly.
script. I'm not trying to just say keywords. Now, let me not feel like Lila is the best worker. I'll be like, yeah, Lila, yes, Lila Price, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And see, for that reason, it's good to have. I'm sorry, Sharon. For
No,
that reason, it can be good to have the professional references.
okay.
Not the HR. If you want me to know about the kind of work you've done, I need your professional references, your personal references. Because if I call the HR department to verify a reference, or if they call me to verify, it's only going to be exactly that, a verification. We're not allowed by HR laws to give you, oh yeah, this person, this. But if you get to a person that's not HR, they can tell you, about how this person performs and so forth. Don't just give me the HR department of that hospital.
Yeah. And I would like to say this for those of you who are putting out references, let your references know.
Yes.
Yes.
Your references know. It doesn't matter if you have 27 beautiful references. If they don't know, people don't answer phone calls from people they don't know. They don't respond to things. So let them know. Okay, so let's do this. We talked about what people look for. We talked about that. I would like for us to give a few tips for this season on how people can interact with their resume, and on the fact that your social media presence does, like, people look for that. Get your settings in order. And even with settings in order, y'all see people getting fired all the time because they have something private in a private group on a private page, sending a private message to a private person. And yes, somebody has gotten it. And screenshots are real. Snipping tool is real. So just know that if you are in there filming your location, and you're in there filming your location, you don't even care, and you're putting things out there, like not even in a helpful way. You're not doing presentations on education. Hey, this is not best practice. This is. You're just talking crazy about people, or wasting inventory, or showing yourself not doing work for hours on end. Like, that stuff comes up. It comes up. Okay. But listen, what are some real-time tips for people who are interviewing and presenting themselves now? Like, honestly, you have to have the ability to use Zoom, Skype.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately, everyone is now utilizing Zoom, Teams,
yeah.
And then I would say, don't, research the job you're applying for so that you can ask questions. They ask you, do you have any questions? And I'm guilty of that as well. I'll be like, no. But I would say ask questions, because it makes the person, I'm sure as recruiters for Regina and Karina, when you ask those questions, it shows a little bit more engagement, because you're wanting to know, you're asking questions about the job or the facility or whatever the situation may be. I would say just ask questions.
I agree. I like it when they ask me questions. I feel
Yes.
like they're listening to me and they acknowledge that I'm listening to them. So yeah, questions are always great. At least one or two. It doesn't have to be a list of questions. But we're always welcoming questions.
Okay. I would say definitely, and with Zoom, you want to learn how to. I mean, you can't, especially like if you're in an apartment or something, you can't control things that go on inside and outside, like outside of your apartment, but maybe inside. Maybe if you have a few interviews, even if it's a closet in your room, but set it up and just make sure that, like, make sure people aren't going to be distracted by what's going on behind you on the wall, or if you still have your laundry in a pile, that may not need to be in the camera shot. We're real people. We do know that people put laundry on couches because it's going to get folded in just a moment. But maybe that doesn't need to be a part of your Zoom interview. Like, those are things that can distract from it. I would say learn how to speak to the camera. Um, I would say learn how to not interrupt in a phone interview, Zoom interview, because a lot of times because people can't see you, you may be interrupting because you're passionate about, you're going to smile, you're passionate about what's going on, but on the phone that may not translate completely. What's another way that people can position themselves now, right now? We're in.
I think being honest about their timeline too, when they're available to interview. Don't just say yes because I gave you a time and a date. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. I don't want you to call me and your 15-minute break. I want to be able to have a calm interview with you and for you to be in a position to answer questions as they come. So really schedule your time, honestly.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I'll say that as well as in the car. Don't schedule an interview for rush hour traffic when you're driving home or on the train. Just you're not available to interview at that time. Okay. Oh, what's some comments? Hold on, let me get these comments. I'm just really talking. Oh, someone says fix the camera. And yes, we've all seen the Progressive commercial. She's like, can you guys see me? So fix the camera, take the time to fix the camera, download what needs to be downloaded at least 10 to 15 minutes before your interview. If you've never used GoToMeeting or WebEx, go in about 15 minutes earlier because you're going to have to download those things.
Do a test run with someone if you have a friend, your best friend or someone you like, Zoom call with them so that you can kind of just make sure you're picking up on all the things. If it's clear background, or if you need to maybe go to a different area of the house that doesn't have as much background noise into it or something, just to kind of keep it professional. But I would do like a 5-minute, call somebody else on the Zoom and do a 5-minute check on with them, just to make sure everything works right.
Yeah, because you have to be conscious of the light. I learned this just the other day. Make sure you know where you're positioning your camera is, not with the light on your face, like really direct behind you, make sure it's in the right area.
Yes. Fix the camera, do that. Take time to prepare. I heard Brian say research the facility, research the role that you're applying for, ask questions. All these things that we're saying, these are things that separate you and cause you not to just be seen as an applicant, but like a name. Now you become a name. Not like you're not like over just in the pile. Now they're like, oh no, I enjoy talking with Brian. I enjoy talking with Lila. I enjoy talking with Regina. Like you become a name. Karina, I really like Karina. She seems, and then you become a name now. Once you become a name, and not just in the stack of paper, you've moved on to the next phase, Now you moved on to the next phase. Once you become a name, people are rooting for you because understand, recruiters want to fill positions, managers want those roles filled. They want problem solved. They're not trying to do you. It's not got to be quicker than that, and they're dangling a carrot or something in front of you. They want that position filled, and so you want to be able to make it past that initial interview, which means you need more than one skill set. You can be a dynamo. You can be just excellence upon excellence inside the department. But if you don't make it past HR, if you don't make it past the initial phone interview, if you don't know how to communicate, then we may never be able to experience the benefit of who you are inside of our department. Take time to prepare. And how important is flexibility, guys?
Very important.
Very important.
Hey, if we don't get that out, if COVID hasn't demonstrated that.
Yes.
Yeah. So it also says research the company that you are interviewing with. If it's a video interview, still dress the part. Still dress the part. If it's an early morning interview, maybe they don't need to see bedhead and the line still on your face. Even though you've been up for 6 hours. That's not the case.
I was going to share a quick story. Someone sent a video and they were driving in their car. It was at night. I'm just like, this looks so dangerous. Like you were just so concerned and alarmed for so many reasons. It's like, and it was one of those it's a video application process that we have. So But it was just weird. I was just like, why are you driving in your car? And I could tell it was dark, but I'm seeing them just flying through the streets and they're interviewing. They had a lot of great energy and they had a lot of good information. But I was just so concerned about everything going on in the background that I wasn't even really focused on what was the conversation that they were having and the questions they were answering. So do it in the right place. Like just get in the right setting so that people can concentrate on you and not everything going on around you.
All right. Hey, I'm going to put a link to something in here. And then if anyone has any final things that they would like to share, even about the social media, I know people get a little like, no, it's my social media. I'm telling you, people are looking at your social media. I promise you, people are
Yes, they
looking
are.
at your social media. I promise you they are. You know, and again, we're not telling you what to do and what not to do. We're just trying to give you information so that you can better position yourselves. Anyone have any final thoughts before I start reading off this checklist?
Well, I want to piggyback on what you said about social media. Even myself as an HR coordinator, I have to be careful on my social media, what I put out. I don't want to offend future candidates. I don't want to offend any future companies that I might work for. So even myself, I have to be cautious of what I'm putting out there. I do get friend requests from employees, and I also have to be safe on that. So it's not just for those looking for work; it's also for already those in the field in HR and leadership.
Yeah.
And when we come down to it, and especially like with this pandemic situation going on, if we look in your page on Facebook or whatever, and you're always out partying, and I mean, these dates are on there. You're still among all the crowds and everything. I can't, in good conscience, send you then to something that's going to be a sterile environment in a healthcare field because you're not taking care. And there's a pandemic. You're going to spread something possibly, be a carrier or actually have the virus itself.
Yeah, I didn't even think. See what I'm saying? Like social media is real, man. And
It
this
is.
is not for us to be mad or be like, well, that's not right. This is right. This we're just telling you what it is. We're giving you the info. We're giving you the information and allowing you to make informed decisions within
That's
this pandemic structure. And we just want you to know, like, there are things that are seen and unseen that go into the hiring process. And so I just want to give you a few tips, though, too. Like when you're going out for a role, use LinkedIn. Some of you are like, well, you don't have a LinkedIn profile or you haven't touched it in 20 years. You know what? Touch your LinkedIn profile. Ask somebody for an introduction. Y'all might have friends in common. The same way in Facebook is like mutual friends. See who you know together on LinkedIn. Find out who the hiring manager is because it may not be the HR person. Ask for an introduction. Maybe I'm using Lila and Brian, but maybe Lila knows Brian and Brian may have some influence. So do ask some of those questions behind the scenes. That's why networking is important. That's why it's important to be a part of like your local chapter and get to know other people, not just only the people in the department you work for, but you want to know other people within this field. It's a large field with a lot of opportunity, but it's a small field in that the people who work in it begin to see each other time and time again, and you begin to know each other. Um, do a LinkedIn search. Ask about the company you're wanting to work for. Maybe you really don't want to work for that company. Maybe if it's a manager role and they've had 8 managers in 6 years, maybe you don't want that role. Maybe you do. I don't know. I'm just saying, do some research on it. Look up the company on the website. What's another thing you can do to position yourself?
I think also keeping up with your resume, making sure it's always updated. If you have it in Indeed, if you have it on LinkedIn, make sure you always update your resume. Keep it up.
Okay. Donnie asked, what should I never do in an interview?
Start from the top.
I've had people come into interviews and literally bash.
You've done what?
I've had people come into interviews and literally bash their managers from other facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to the same thing that all of you guys said. We are a big community, but we're a small community. I know your manager personally. So
Wow.
I'm like, wow, it was really shocking. And whether that person, whether the information that you're giving is true or not, you got to think about it. I'm not the only person that's sitting in this interview panel with you. There are normally 3 other people on this panel, and the impression that you're giving is when you come here, you're going to do the same thing that you did there. So, don't bash the previous facility. If it was bad, then leave it where it is. Just say something humbling and let's keep it moving.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Responses.
It's real good.
Yeah. It just wasn't a good fit. It never seemed to work well. And maybe go back to, but I just gave it 150%, and I knew that probably wasn't going to be a lifetime place for me. So I just did the best I could. And what could I bring to the team while I was there, even as I was looking for something else? There are ways to say things without bashing. Last question, guys. How important is reputation in this field? This is for sterile processing. I believe it's important in all fields, but sterile processing. How important is reputation in this field?
It's really important.
Extremely.
That's all you got.
Your name goes on everything in this department.
That is your name and what you do. So I think it's very, very
Yeah. And here's the thing I want to point out too. Make sure what you believe your reputation is and what your reputation actually is are similar. Okay? Yeah. Please have some people who in your amen corner who won't say amen to everything. People because you may feel like your reputation is just the greatest person to work with, such a hard worker. Someone else may be like, that's too much work. It's always drama around them, So make sure your reputation, what you believe your reputation is. Bill says, how do you answer the question? What are your weaknesses for an interview question? Yes, I'm just curious. I don't ask that question anymore, Bill. Maybe someone else does. But I don't ask what are your weaknesses in an interview anymore. For me, I don't ask it at all.
I will say we still have it on the questionnaire when we do the 12-question behavior interview process. We do have it. Again, it goes back to the point of, is the person really going to be truthful about the answer that they're giving? We hope so. I mean, in most situations, the particular job, my employer that I work for, they basically, we all know each other. So when you tell me your weaknesses, I'm more than likely going to know already anyway. So we still have that question.
Okay. Anyone else? When you ask that question, what are some of the answers that you're looking for?
I usually say something around the fact of, something I know I'm really working for, like learning how to take criticism well. Like I usually try to build something that's usually just kind of minor, but it's big because it is something I'm constantly learn how to accept criticism and and work through it, and work through problematic situations. So I usually try to spin it that way. I don't usually spin it, and I try to, and usually it's not too much follow up after that. So what do you say?
Okay.
Back up on that, when asking the weaknesses, they also fall with their strengths. So we want to make sure that the answers are clear.
Okay. All right. I want to say thank you. It's been over an hour, so I want to go ahead and let you all enjoy your Saturday. Regina is correct. We recently had a customer demand an employee into quarantine based on social media posting. Wow. You hear it here, folks. You see that? Demand an employee into quarantine based on social media postings. And so
it's real.
Listen, it's a shifting marketplace. Everything is to help individuals make informed decisions, to better position you. It's a lot of things we can't control going on right now. So the things we can control and the areas that we can tweak and adjust to strengthen our position and to strengthen our placement, we want to be able to give you that information, whether soft skills or technical skills. here on Knowledge and Nonsense. I do want to say this as I'm about to go out. Thank you guys so much for being with us. If you are still of the mindset that it's my social media and they don't need to be on it, if they don't want me to work there, just know that they may not want you to work there. You can hold that position, but know that they can hold theirs as well. And also know that things you put on social media, you think that you control that, but once it's out there, I mean, and anything can happen to anybody, you know, people get hacked, but once it's out there, you no longer have like the control that you think you have over it. And now you have a bunch of people who may be questioning you, or they may not ever question you, which means you didn't make it to the interview based off of your social media. So I just want to say it's a shift in marketplace. Please do your due diligence and staying prepared. Please network with other individuals within the sterile processing field. Please be willing to grow and shift and change. If the complaints you have about sterile processing and the hiring process of sterile processing, if the complaints you have today are the same complaints you had 6 years ago and you haven't changed your response, that's on you. I know people aren't supposed to say stuff like that, but that's on you. And I want to be your friend and tell you the truth, okay? That's on you. You have to adjust there. We need you. We have need of you. But that part is on you. So everyone have a great weekend. Y'all be safe. God bless. Please share this video if you have any questions or anything you want us to discuss or areas you're having you would like some help or insight within sterile processing nationwide. Please just send it to info@ucdileadership.com and we'll address it. We will address it. Y'all be safe and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.